Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. It's a beautiful day and we are here to talk. And talk we will. This is that particular program where we tell you to invite your friends, your neighbors, even if you're quarreling with the person. For now, hey, drop your swords and let's talk. It doesn't matter what the situation is like. It doesn't matter how good business is looking or how good the farming environment is looking for. We are going somewhere close to it today. Then how good the cost of food is for those within farming environment. And for those very far from farming environment, doesn't matter how the cost, landing cost is like. For those importing rice from Asia, what is it like? We'll talk. Now, for those also cultivating the rice in those beautiful savanna places, or could it be the good rainforest places? Hey, let's talk. For those looking at government policies and asking those particular questions, how is this policy favoring productivity? How is it affecting manufacturing? For those looking forward to having power, if you're in West Africa, you call it electricity. How is it? For those that are collecting loans and waiting to build those particular dams, and for I'm still saying that because we don't know how long it's going to take. Those dams are not up. How is it? We talk. This is SOUQ Pulse, where we talk. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. We are going somewhere that concerns every one of us. It's a bit controversial. It's a bit touchy, but we'll go there. I have a guest that will take us and will answer our questions on SOUQ Pulse today. Before I introduce that and our guest, we'll take a very short break. Don't go anywhere. This is your program. So let's talk. Welcome back. It's SOUQ Pulse. It's your program. This is SOUQ News, and here we dwell on positivities. We tell you whatever narrative it is. We find a solution. We find the problem and look for ways of getting the business part, the productivity, the solution out of it. So we don't dwell on the negativities, no matter what it is, no matter how it came about, no matter who is pushing it. Remember, it's a narrative, and we are all in the market. So don't let anybody give you a bad name. That bad name could just be to push your market aside and sell theirs. That is exactly what it is. So we have to sell our own market, our product. But before we sell, we have to bring a product to the market. I hope we get the narrative. That is where we are. Today we are looking at safety and of genetically modified foods. You are asking, yes, we are going there again. Now we have not issues, but we have, in quote, GM food, genetically modified foods. We have, apart from the organisms, yes, they could be good for health purposes. They could be used for enrichment purposes. But now when it comes to food cultivation, crops, seedlings, there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of narrative out there. There are a lot of things that we need to understand. But now this is another aspect of it. Now, if we're looking at the safety of genetically modified foods, we also ask ourselves, what is this particular narrative that is constantly out there of hunger in Africa? What is this African hunger narrative? Okay, now, how does it come to align with GM food and the push for GM foods in Africa? To be specific, the cultivation of GM foods in Africa. That is where we are going today. And to throw light in this, we have no other but a farmer first. That's a qualification. So yes, he feeds us, a farmer, and he's also the co-founder of Tetrabel Foods. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome to SOUQ Pulse another time, Mr. Owoeye Temitope. Temitope, good afternoon and welcome to SOUQ Pulse.
Having again. It's an honor to do this. At least he that feeds the belly saves a life. So it's important we try to do that.
For those in Canada, check up your time zone and take up our greetings. For those in Asia, some part of Asia, I think you're like 6, 7, 8 hours ahead of us. Don't worry. It's still the same good news and good vibes we are bringing today. Now, we are looking at the safety of genetically modified foods now versus the hunger narrative. I call it that is what it is a narrative. Now, yes, we have some places that have conflict, we have some places that are undergoing drought, but at the end part of it, there is a particular narrative that is being painted out there. And there's a reason why some people, some groups, some organizations, some governments are pushing for genetically modified foods. Now, we are looking at this particular topic, we are looking at it in the lens of 6 particular things. First is safety assessment of GM foods. Secondly, we're looking at comparative advantage of GM foods cultivation against the countries where these things are coming. The third, we're looking at regulating GM foods within each country. We'll take them one by one. Then fourth, we're looking at the risks of GM food. We're looking at the techniques in the food chain. Then we're also looking at the long-term effect of GM foods. Then we'll lastly look at international involvement with GM food safety. Now, we'll be looking at 2 comparisons. We'll be looking at Canada and Kenya. Canada in the West, Kenya for us here in Africa. Now, for Kenya, we've seen a lot of videos that we cannot verify. But we know that government sometime lifted the ban on GM food cultivation in Kenya. That ban was on for 12 years, for 10 years to be precise, 2012, and it was lifted in 2022. And they went to court. Court said, hold. Then environmental court came and said, no, go ahead. That also has a question mark on it. Then there are several things that are happening in Kenya when it comes to GM foods, cultivation and all that. But if we look on the flip side and look at what is happening in Canada, who happens to be a more developed nation, a richer nation, it's different. 100% different. Once you go to the Canadian official site for the nation, you will see it there. We do not allow the sale of genetically modified foods in Canada unless Health Canada scientists are satisfied that they are safe and nutritious. That's the first 2 lines you see. Okay, now let's start this conversation. Is it hunger that is driving us in Africa, or the safety of our people, or business? Let's start this conversation from that.
And why I'm laughing is just simple, and it's just for the layman to be able to understand what all of this is all about. Realistically, it's all about business. It's just simply business. And over time, the Western world have tried to use so many things to control Africa in terms of war equipment, in terms of grammar, in terms of so many things. They've tried to control Africa with so many things, and in all of this, come out victorious. And the next thing for them to do is to make use of food. Like I said, eat that feeds the belly saves a life, and eat that feeds you controls your life. Regardless of how good you are, whether you're a professor or not, if you are hungry, the reality is you are nobody. So for me, it's just simply business. And of course, if you look at that in quotes, African leaders, so to say, they easily give in. So they know how to, model their way around them and get whatever they want. So realistically, it's not about hunger. That we should say that 100%. It's not about hunger. It's just about business, and the fact that some people have seen a loophole as an advantage for them to take over and to cash in, when it comes to African context. And I'm happy that the Canadian thing is just simple and straightforward. Just of course the way Russians too we say it's simple and straightforward. So for me, it's not about hunger. And to the farmers in Nigeria or to the farmers in Kenya, it's not about hunger. It's just about business. Simple as ABC. So it's not about hunger.
It's not about hunger. It's about business.
It's just about the Benjamin. It's just about the Benjamin.
Okay. That's just let's hold on to your thoughts on the business side of it. Let's look at the safety assessment of GM foods. Genetically modified foods. So once you hear me say GM, for everyone that is watching, or if you're tuning in, or if you didn't see us start the particular program, genetically modified food. Now, we'll keep this comparison going. Then we'll come to you and get your analysis. Now, let's look at the safety assessment of GM foods. This is coming directly from Canada. Now, safety, we do a thorough safety assessment of all food, GM or not. I will make sure they are nutritious and before they can be sold in Canada. Now, that's also in quote. They will have a clear assessment process. Now, they have a long list, and I'm wondering, okay, which of the GM products is going to be able to pass through this particular list? Microbiological chemical safety, potential of GM food to cause allergic reaction, potential for introduction of new toxins. Now, these are major things. Now, the first thing I get to ask, if you say introduce new toxins, what are the GM foods? What are the GM seeds in the first place? If we say they are stronger and you can't use pesticides, that means there are toxins in them already. So if we say is more of gene taken from something that is not biologically inapt to that particular species to it. So if you are telling me the microbiology and chemical safety of the food, that they have told you right from the very word go, this is what we are ruling, and you know what you're bringing. How do we now compare? Now let's come to the African context. Kenya, the court and the cabinet is saying because of drought, they didn't go any scientific, or they didn't try going in any way to prove this or prove that. It said because of drought, this is the worst drought we've had in 40 years. We need to make food available. And so they passed and canceled the ban that had stood for 10 years. How does this two different scenario affect safety assessment when it comes to GM food? Kenya, we Africa. Canada, they are even companies that are making it.
I'm trying to use a better word, not to use the kind of language I would have loved to use. I wish I'm not on the hair. There's a certain language I would have loved to use. It just goes to show you how crude, permit me to use that word, how crude African leaders are. Look at the context and what you've explained as to what the Canadian government wants for their people. Because they know the more people they have living, the better for their country, the more productive they will be, the more useful to the society they will be. Now, in the African context, our leaders are not looking to that direction. The court has not said anything about it. And when you say drought, what happened to irrigation? I don't understand. So when they keep talking about this narrative of drought, 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 and drought, what happens to irrigation? Now we have crops that are farmed during dry season. We have crops that are farmed during, of course, rainy season. So why can't we use our own ecosystem to our own advantage? So it's just going to show you that the African leaders or the African elite do not care about whatever that happens to their people as much as the Benjamin is coming to their pocket. As long as they have access to these luxury hotels abroad, as long as they keep inviting them for one meeting and for one seminar and all that, where they have the luxury of time, to spend our taxes that they've collected forcefully from us. So all they care about is just their own pocket. It's as simple as ABC. So it's not about drought, it's not about hunger, it's just the fact that they don't know what they are doing and they're not ready to listen. They're not ready to listen.
What they are doing and they are not ready to listen. That happens to be your submission.
They are not ready. They are not ready to listen. I'll give you some facts about Kenya, and I'm sure it will surprise you. They are not ready to listen. That's just that, and I don't know how else Africa, how else I don't know. I'm finding it difficult to. Why is it difficult for us to come together and have a voice as to what we want? Okay, tell me, is there any scientific evidence that was done in Kenya by a Kenyan scientist to have given approval to this particular product? Tell me one.
Hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought. Let's go back to this same comparison because we are trying to see, okay, where exactly should we start looking at this particular product and ask ourselves these questions. Now, still on safety assessment of GM foods, genetically modified foods. For Canada, a manufacturer, importer, and developer must submit detailed information to Health Canada outlining how the product was developed. That's even before you bring in anything. Now, if the data provided is not complete, Health Canada scientists will ask the developer for more information and scientific data. Some products that do not meet our strict criteria right from the door, don't even bother. Now, this is lengthy. It goes on and on. This is just for safety assessment alone. Okay, now let's bring it to Kenya. On the 12th of October 2023, that's less than a year ago, the Environmental Court dismissed the case, saying that the petitioners did not provide evidence of GMO foods harming the environment or human health. Now, the question I should ask, is it the people that are petitioning who happens to be the peasant farmers, not the academia, not the scientists, not the health practitioners, not the doctors' union? Peasant farmers are those that went to court and said no to the ban that was lifted on GMO foods. Now, the appeal court said, okay, yes, I agree with you people. The High Court said, I agree with you people. Then the Environmental Court is coming to say, no, we don't agree with you. You don't have any empirical or scientific proof to show that it harms the environment or human health. Now, the question now comes, where did the Environmental Court come to play? Or who should be the one to provide the scientific evidence? Is it the peasant farmer or the government of the day?
All of this boils down to, I'll still stick to my word, the greed of our elites. For example, in Kenya, we have over 2,000 farmers, 2 million farmers in Kenya. 57% of them has refused to make use of GMOs. Now, these farmers, aside from being a farmer, they live on their farm. They understand their terrain. Aside from selling these crops, it's just their own way of life. And what they are trying to do is to take their way of life away from them. It's as simple as ABC. Now, the farmers that are used to their way of being, planting their maize, so, for example, maize or sorghum, they have their way of doing it right from day one. They've never been to lab to check what they've been doing for inception, and they grow up to meet their parents doing it, and they continue. And they've never had any hazard as to health, whatever, as to the corn that they've been doing and all of that. So when the environmental is now coming to say no, they should show proof. What proof do they want? What proof? The one they've been doing, the farm they've been farming for over 100 years, 200 years. Have anybody asked them to show proof of whatever they've been doing? So why the proof now? Now they are doing that because they know that there's no lab, they don't have access to these facilities within the Kenya context that they can get adequate results. If they are to do any proof, that means they're taking this sand or whatever to the US or to wherever these multinationals are, sponsoring these field scientists that we have in Kenya or we have in West Africa. You understand? They have to still take these sands to them. And of course, they'll be done to run the test. And whatever they say the test is what it is. So these farmers don't have access to all of these facilities. And besides, they've been doing this thing for years. So why are they asking them to prove it now? Why is it that it has to be something about GMO that is being controlled by a few elites, by a few countries in the world? Why?
That particular question, I think I will leave it for you, and I will invite you personally to come to the studio and answer that question. Physically, not via Zoom. Now, let's go to the second one, comparative approach. Now, for Canada, Canada is saying one way to establish safety of the GM food is this. They went straight to the point. If the approach identifies any form of difference between the GM foods and the closest unmodified foods with history of safety. Now, the question is, where is the GM foods going to get the history from?
Science is what the observation, whatever it has been happening around us. All right. And these are things they put together to make up whatever it is they claim. Okay, good. Now, compared to the regular food that we have, tell me something that's been mixed up within the lab context. What genesis do you want to have? So obviously, the Canadian government knows that they don't have what it is to tender. And the ironic thing in Africa is this. I've asked and I've been asking people, and I need one of the so-called scientists to come out and tell us. A lot of farmers have been asking this question, even to IIT, to Standard Organization of Nigeria, to NAFDAC, and ask them, point to us one scientist in Nigeria or in Africa or in Kenya that he or she is saying, yes, I did this. This is my lab, and these are the theses I've written, or this is whatever I've written. This is how I've been able to come about this particular product. None of them. I challenge them if there's any within Africa, within West Africa, or Kenya or Nigeria. Of course, this is a live program. I'm sure they are doing all over the world. If there's any within Africa content that will say, this is my own lab. I've been doing this project for the past so number of years, and I've been able to come up with this, and these are the genesis that from A to Z. These are all that I've been able to do, and this is the result. They are listening, so one of them should come out and show us a proof of what they've done, and the lab must be within Africa context, whether in Kenya or in Nigeria.
The lab must be whether in Kenya or Nigeria. Okay, now let's move further and see what's happening in Canada for their direct rules and steps before they get to let this product come in for cultivation or for sale. Now, they're also looking at the risk of GM techniques in food supply. Okay, this kind of trips me because they outline every single thing they are looking at. They are intentional about it. So we also get to ask ourselves, we that are taking, African nations that are taking, and some other African nations that are not even sure that these things are in their countries already, which is very possible. To what extent do we get to find out that the seed we are planting either today or tomorrow are not genetically, are organic seeds? How do we know?
Okay, fantastic question, a very good question, and I love it. Now, let me come back to Nigerian context and, of course, Kenya context. Now, this is what we do. Year in, year out, for example, let's assume I did 10 acres of corn this year. Of course, I know that the least I could do for next year is to repeat the 10 acres. So what I have to do is to keep seeds that will enable me to do that same 10 acres next year. An average farmer in Kenya, in Uganda, Rwanda, and all that, we do the same thing. So within ourselves, we know that, okay, even if I don't have, Mr. A will have. If Mr. A doesn't have, Mr. B will have. Now, don't forget, we never patent any of these seeds ourselves. I repeat, we never painted any of our products, be it our yam or whatever. We just share it among ourselves, and we do the same thing. And there's something that's going on currently in Benue State. Now, the local farmers, those that you think that they don't know their right from their left, or of course they've not been to school. Now, this is what they are doing. Now, they have their own seeds that they plant, that they eat for their family. Okay, and they absorb these GMOs from these foreign entities for the business. So within the context of we the farmers, we know what we are doing. We know how these seeds go around the cycle within ourselves. Because, for example, what the GMO seed is doing is that now, if I'm to have a GMO seed, I don't have the right to give it to you for free. I don't have the right to share with you because it's being patented by someone, by a particular brand. So I can't share with you compared to what we are used to, what we've been doing over the years. So within ourselves, we know that, okay, and to a large extent, IIT is doing a good job in Nigeria. Till date, when you go there, they still have the original seeds that we're used to. They have it. In fact, to be honest with you, what I planted in my farm like a few months ago, I got it from my IIT. So these seeds are still there. The GMO seeds are there. And that's why even within the Nigerian context, a lot of farmers are not really into it because there's this mixed feelings. Yes, the money aspect is there, When I plant, yes, I'm sure, 10 acres is 10 acres. And of course, I'll make more money and all of that. Yes. But on the flip side of it, everybody, we are wary of, okay, aside from making the money, what next? Because knowing fully well that by next year or by next primary cycle, I have to still go back to the company to buy. Because every year you have to go back to buy. That's the honest truth. And that's what the Western world is trying to do, just trying to control whatever it is that we're doing. So it's not just about me, it's not about you. And what people don't understand about the GMO thing is this. 2 years ago, Nigerian beans was rejected, within the European Union. Why? Lots of chemicals and all of that. So what it means is, years to come, we will not be able to export anything outside Africa. For example, currently, Kenya is importing about over 50% of whatever it is they are consuming. And that's why the government, that's why the president or whatever, that's why they keep pushing. That, okay, now our people are hungry, they need to feed their people. So whatever it takes for them to feed their people is what they're after. They're not after the safety, they're not after the well-being of their people. They just want to feed them. I know GMO food for me is like someone destined to spend 5 years on earth. But with the help of GMO food, you spend 2 years. It's as simple as ABC. So the reality is among the farmers, among the locals, we have the way of, checkmating all of this because we know what we plant as a last season. It will interest you to know, yesterday we're in Mokwa market yesterday. They first they were at what's it called, Lapine, for what's granite and all of that. Until date, a lot of these farmers still have their original seeds that they've been recycling every year. So the seeds are there. I don't know why this push for this GMO thing, that why you trying to compare people that, okay, you just have to leave your old ways and embrace the new ways that I know nothing about.
You keep your old ways and seek other new ways to embrace. Let's just hold on to what we have right now. But now, let's look at list of countries that have banned the cultivation of GMO foods, but still allow import. They allow import, but you can't plant here. Now, Algeria, Austria, Azerbaijan, Belize, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Europe, Cyprus, Denmark, Europe, Ecuador, France, Europe, Germany, Greece, Europe, Hungary, Italy, Europe, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, Slovenia, Switzerland, Europe, Turkey, and Ukraine. Now, you can't cultivate here, but, well, for those that we approve, you can import. Now, let's go and now see countries that you cannot both cultivate and you cannot import. Algeria, Bhutan, Madagascar, Peru, Russia, Venezuela, Zimbabwe. Aside Algeria and Zimbabwe, no other African country is playing here. Which means in some African countries, just like we asked before, it's possible this is just coming in and nobody is even batting an eye. What exactly is the problem with us? Is it still the money thing?
Of course, whichever side of the coin that you want to turn it to. As far as we, the local farmers, are concerned, it's just all about the Benjamin. Now, you wonder why why I keep insisting on the money aspect of it. Now, I wish that the government of Africa or the government of Kenya and Nigeria would do the needful for the farmers. Now, we have 9 months. They are meant to tell us what the weather forecast looks like for the year. You expect rain at this time, you do this, you do that. Those are the little tips that the farmers need for them to do the needful in their farm. You have countries that go into huge, big time irrigation. Why can't we do that for some states that are prone to this drought of a thing? If truly they care as to helping the farmers. Now, why I keep insisting on the money aspect of it is the fact that few people control whatever it is this GMO seed it's all about. And the more you keep telling us that it's about hunger, it's about, oh, people have to eat. So after they don't eat, what next? What after they've done eating?
Done
What
after
next?
they've done eating,
When
what
they
next? Okay, now you brought
what
up a
next?
particular word here. Let's go there. Is this a control mechanism? Because once you've explained that, okay, for GMO seeds, if you are cultivating, which means you have to go back to source to get seeds to plant. So if we have this continuum and it continues, which means there's a particular source that have, if possible, patented that particular product, and you have to go back to them to get access to it. Does this look like a form of control? And this control, where it looks like it's not Africa.
Sir, it's simple mathematics. And I'll take you back to how did we get here in the first place. In the early days of Nigeria, we're feeding ourselves and we're doing fine. We're not borrowing money, we have money in essence. The Singapore and the rest of them came to, to Nigeria to get things done. I remember in those days, you see Chibado used to be top-notch hospital that nobles all over the world comes to. Nigeria airport, there's an anger that the other airlines of the world come to service that, plane and all of that. What happened today? They're all gone. Today, Nigeria goes to India, to other African countries for medical checkup. Today, we can't refine our crude oil. We just have to import. Even when we have our refinery not working. Why? Because the Western world convinced few of these folks among us to convince us to accept what we don't know the genesis of. And it's still the same that is happening to this food thing that we're talking about today. Now, when you have few people controlling a certain value chain, they dictate to you how it should go. Don't forget, in the early days of Nigeria, Awolowo was not controlling the farmers in terms of their seedling. The farmers has access to their seedling and they do whatever they want to do, how they want to do it. All the Western region cares about is for them to turn out healed and the government picks up from them. It's just the same thing that we're asking the government to do. It's not too much. As of today, whether you like it or not, I repeat, and I'm challenging any Nigerian scientist to come out and tell us of the simple truth that hi, science, or whatever they call themselves, that I did this particular miss for Nigeria based on Nigeria study, based on the input of farmers from social place, from social place, from social place, from social place. I don't know. Those are the simple things we need in Nigeria or in Africa. It just has to do with us. It's not about what the Western world is telling us. Oh, you must accept because it's good. You must accept it. You must accept because your people are hungry. No, I want to see University of Ibadan Agricultural Department coming out to say yes, we've been able to produce this, and based on our studies, based on what we do, our studies over the years, based on our connection with farmers from the rural setting and all of that, we've been able to bring this seed that will help the local farmers, not Monsanto in America and all of that. As much as I try not to mention names, not these guys pushing this thing down our throat as to, oh, this is the new normal, this is the way of life. See, we are trending on a lot of things that is not good for us. Let me give you an analysis, and so that probably you can get a clue where I'm coming from. Our children, to a large extent, they stop thinking. For example, my daughter in primary three was asking her elder sister in SS3 a simple mathematics question. And what next? The elder sister had to turn to AI to ask questions. Come on. So what it means is our children have stopped thinking. Why? Because we've 100% adopt the Western ways of doing things. And it's just the same thing on this GMO thing that we're talking about here. For crying out loud, I won't have, I won't, of course, it should have been easy for us farmers to accept if it happens to be okay, we contributed to it. Okay, these are our challenges. Okay, these are the ways we think. Okay, when you do AYZ, we'll be better off. The farmers will know it is their own input. We don't have any input on it. We're not asked any questions. The only thing we're told is take is good for you. Of course, you have more yield. That's the narrative they've been able to push to an average farmer. No more, no less. Nothing else. They've not had anything to eat aside
While
from
you talk
telling them
about the
not to eat.
narrative that has been pushed to an average farmer,
Yes,
it's also on record that several agric research institutes, like the one you mentioned in Ibadan, they have modified seeds, not genetically modified though. They have
exactly.
several seeds, better yielding. It could be resistant to a particular form of pest or all that. That we've had for a while.
Yes,
We've had better cassava
yes,
stems too. At least I can attest to
yes,
that. I've
yes,
seen several of that.
yes,
We've also seen
yes,
that of guinea corn and that of beans. The white beans
yes,
is not as popular as it used to be before. We see more better yielding brown beans right
yes,
now. Good. At what point
yes.
should we as a people or the farmers union that you belong to start promoting this and make it loud? And it's difficult to drown the noise and the narrative of the GMO. But if we also start selling our own seeds that we have, don't you think it would be difficult to convince the person in one village to take up the GMO seeds?
You know, when it comes to money, money has a different driving force, and whether I like it or not, you need to understand that and understand how it works. Now, this is it. Let me keep using myself as a case study. Okay, imagine me doing 1 acre of beans, for example, this year, or sorry, last year. And ordinarily, my projection is for me to have let's say 1,000 bags of beans at the end of the day, you know. But due to insects and all of that, maybe I got, let's say, 950, for example. And you are coming to tell me that, Mr. Sopa, with this seed, you have exact 1,000. Now, the first thing that comes to your mind is thank God I'm making more money. And that's why I've said that the push for the GMO has always been on the farmers making more money to the detriment of others. So it has always been, don't worry, you make more money. And that's why the farmers in Kenya are crying out now because some of them are unable to, they don't have the power, the financial power to actually get these seeds. Last year, they had the same issue. Why some farmers were waiting for this seed to come so that they can give to them free, but they couldn't get it. Those farmers are stranded. They didn't do anything last year, and that has caused reduction in whatever food they are producing. So, like I said, within the farmers' context, yes, we have our whole way of sharing these seeds among ourselves. You know where to buy your cassava seeds, just like you said. You know where to buy your beans. And an average farmer keeps whatever he or she wants to plant for the next farming cycle. That's the truth. An average farmer, whenever we harvest, of course, the first thing first is for you to keep whatever it is that you want to plant for the next farming cycle. So that's secure. You are sure that with next year or next 8 months, whatever, I'll still do the same thing that I've been doing. So the problem is, of course,
So
the GMO has more money.
in the context of being able to share the seeds or being able to convince the farmer or being able to get this cultivation done, are you suggesting or by any way saying that that particular regulation rests in the arms or in the coffers or in the purview of government to make sure it's regulated or it doesn't even come in at all?
100%. The government has it all. You can't fight the government. They have all the tools. They have all the wherewith. They have the wherewithal, to do whatever they want to do. If they are saying, okay, for example, let me give you something. For example, in Kenya, now they are importing maize. Now, what that is doing to them present is that the local farmers will not be able to compete with the GMO food, maize that is being imported into Kenya at the moment, because an average farmer, practically do everything himself compared to the GMO that has been subsidized and all of that. So definitely, in terms of their selling power, their selling power, of course, will reduce. So it's still the same thing. What we want is the government to give everybody level playing field. You understand? Protect the interests of the existing old farmers that have been feeding you. Most of these ministers, governors, presidents we have today, none of them did eat GMO food to grow up. They didn't eat GMO food for them to have their brain sharp. They didn't eat GMO food for them to skate through their school days. And of course, an average primary school, secondary school these days, we have farms in our schools. And we're not taught as to, you need something from science, from lab, to increase your yield. No, we're taught the basic way of doing it. So what we need to do, what the government needs to do for us, is just simple. Do not over push, do not overstretch the importance of GMO. Do not overstretch, do not over push the importance of GMO. Don't tell us, oh, GMO is supersede whatever it is you have been doing. That's what the problem is. They keep pushing the narrative as to the GMO supersede whatever it is you have been doing. The GMO will help you to gain more money compared to what you've been doing. You understand? And like I said, the multinationals have the media, they have everything they can use compared to an average farmer, of course, and they're struggling to cultivate an acre or one plot, of land. So they have everything going for them. Why we don't? The best we can do, like I said, is to keep sharing information among ourselves. And that's why right about now in Nigeria, we have so many agri platforms that we're educating ourselves on day-to-day basis as to what we need to do, how we need to protect our seedlings that we have in the past. And that's what we're doing. And that's why, in terms of the spread of the GMO seeds in Nigeria today, for me, it's not as successful as what they're turning out. Yes, we might have a lot of GMO food on our shelf. In fact, the food brands in America, they've gone a step further. Now, they no longer had GMO on their label. What they had is engineered food ingredients. That's what they have. Because the good thing about the so-called good thing about the GMO they are talking about is the more you refine it, of course, the more taxes will come for you to actually detect some elements of GMO in those products. So they've gone a step further. So it's possible we have some of them. But what we are saying is, what we need the government to do is just come to the aid of the farmers, help them, give them the tools they need, let them do what they know how to do, let them run the way they've been running. You understand? Help them. Like I said, the Nigerian state government is doing a fantastic job, and we're happy with him. And what it is that he has doing, I imagine the federal government doing the same thing, helping the farmers to clear their land, helping the farmers to till their land, helping the farmers with the seedlings they need, and promising them that come as soon as they've done planting, at the point of harvest, they will come buy these things from you. So
Okay,
an average farmer
those are
in
all
Nigeria
good
state today,
incentives. Those are things that every other state should also emulate from what is happening in Niger State. And I guess that is where you are right now.
of course,
I want to say thank you very much
of
for
course.
coming on SOUQ Pulse. It's been a busy day for you, and you were able to find time to tune in and sit through. Thank you very much, Temitope.
You're welcome.
Being in Lagos and coming physically to the studio. Now, to everyone out there, now this is your judgment. This is your talk. This is your silence, either to keep or not to keep. But we on this side will tell you, don't keep quiet. As it concerns GMO food, is your choice. But as it concerns Nigeria, Africa getting productive, it goes beyond choice. We don't have a choice. We must get productive and we must get healthy. So let's farm African seeds. If we are the one producing the GMO foods for them to buy, beautiful. If we are part of the research, beautiful. We don't have an issue with it. But if we are not the one making the profit of others, then that is where we have a problem. I'm talking for me. Now remember, this is talk. So talk your talk. Thank you very much for being there. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. We'll do this again tomorrow. But before then, be your brother's keeper. Have yourself a beautiful evening.